one thing that it would be definitely advantageous to learn would be this thing that you could call the art of suffering. If you could see evening classes running entitled The Art of Suffering, that would be a good one to sign up to, I'd say. However, we don't have much to do with the art of suffering in the West. We're big into management, and management isn't a department of arts, clearly. So we're very big into pain management, anger management, anxiety management, and management of emotions, and all that kind of thing. Distress management, though we might call it distress tolerance, perhaps. All of this stuff is a very far cry from the art of suffering. And the reason it's a far cry from the art of suffering is because we've turned it into a technology, a technical issue, a procedural issue, as if there could ever be a procedural issue to pain or a procedural issue to suffering. Saying or assuming, which would be more like it, that there is a procedural answer to suffering implies that we don't need to suffer if we have the correct procedures at hand, obviously. So everything becomes a matter of trying to find or discover the correct procedures. And this is very significant because this attitude of ours speaks of a very particular mind state, or a very particular way of looking at the world. And this way of looking at the world is basically that I don't have to deal with difficulty face to face without any means of control, but that there is always going to be some way of controlling it. So this is a belief in control. We have this belief that there's always a solution. We might not have it, but we do believe that there is a solution out there somewhere, and this gives us a type of comfort. It gives us a type of comfort because we don't have to deal with what we're dealing with, because we can solve it. A number of years ago, I was in a correspondence with a young guy who was he was arguing that there is always a solution, we just have to find it. And he was coming from the angle that this is a positive way to look at things, because it gives us hope, it gives us empowerment. And he was saying that this is what a lot of the stuff he was reading or listening to or watching online was telling him. And I was arguing that for all the important things there are no solutions, that solutions are fine for certain things. There's a whole range of things for which there are no solutions, because life isn't a matter of just finding solutions for things. And the guy obviously had very personal reasons for taking the line that he was taking because he was suffering from whatever mental health conditions he was suffering, and he was hanging out for a solution. And our culture puts us in that mind frame and sends us in that direction, which isn't very helpful, because the whole time we're looking for a solution, we're living on a cloud. We're not living in the real world at all. And we could spend an awful lot of time not living in the real world like this. If it were possible that there is a solution, then I would never have to change. I'm in an untenable situation, or a situation that's challenging me beyond the point at which I can function normally. And if I could find a solution, then I could carry on functioning normally. I could go back to how I was. So the whole point of controlling is that we maintain the way that we are. Controlling is always about maintaining the status quo. That's the whole point of controlling. If we were content to be changed by events that kind of demand that we do change, there'd be no need for control in that. So it can be seen that our collective way of looking at things is to hold on to our position very, very tightly, very, very firmly, and to control the hell out of everything else. To invest in control and never, never, never look at what it is we're hanging on to or trying to preserve or protect or perpetuate. So the source of our suffering is not that we aren't good at controlling enough, or we haven't got enough hacks to use to circumvent problems. The cause of our suffering is that we are so obstinately and unconsciously determined to hang on to whatever position we're in. That is absolutely the cause of our suffering in a nutshell. And there comes a time when we can't control anymore, and then we have to let go, change, stop perpetuating this particular setup that we're so afraid not to perpetuate. And when we do that, it's exhilarating, maybe further down the line, after we've gone through the trauma of holding on and realizing we can't hold on. But in the bigger picture of things, it's a great thing, because we invariably discover that we didn't need to hold on. That's number one. And number two is that we discover our holding on was causing the pain. So that's not a procedural thing. That's an awareness thing. Instead of focusing on maximizing control, we take a radical look at everything and say, why do I want to control? So we move from how to why. There are no technologies for why. There's no methods to help us ask the question why, or methods to put us in the frame of mind where we genuinely are asking the question why. This is not a procedural domain, as I was saying. So the way that our society works very clearly is to perpetuate the state of non-questioning. And this is synonymous with saying that our society is technological, or our society is based on coping strategies or fixes or hacks. All of these are the same thing. So it's easy to see, having said this much, why management of suffering is such a horrendous thing, such a horrendous idea. Management of anxiety or anger or whatever type of pain we're in means basically that we are fundamentally determined not to question. So we survive the best we can without questioning. We try and make it as good a go of it as we can without having to question, and also without ever having to address the fact that we aren't questioning. We're caught in this never-ending search for optimization. And that means we don't ever get to look at what it is we're actually trying to optimize or why. So what this actually means is our approach to suffering makes suffering worse, just to put it very simply. So that's not a good approach to suffering. When we're suffering, we're aware that we don't want to suffer more. That becomes very clear to us. So if you could see clearly what the procedural approach, the management approach is doing, increasing our suffering, we'd have no more time for it, because there is a great clarity in suffering, if nothing else. That clarity being that we don't really want to make it worse, and maybe that we want to learn what we need to learn so that we don't have to endure it any further. So the art of suffering, we could say, isn't about finding a way to get rid of the suffering, which is impossible. That's a red herring. But what it is about is not making the suffering worse. And by not making the suffering worse, we're doing the best that we could do. That's our optimum, really, is to not aggravate our own suffering, not to exacerbate it, not to dig a deeper hole for ourselves, not to torture ourselves. After all, it's bad enough to be suffering. It's bad enough. That's enough. We don't want to beat ourselves up over it or find new ways of increasing the suffering and escalating it to a new level. So when we say that the art of suffering is to learn what not to do to make the suffering worse, it has to be understood that this isn't a procedural thing. There's no thing I can do to prevent myself making the suffering worse, because anything I do is resistance. Anything I think is resistance. And resistance always makes the suffering worse. What we resist persists, as Jung says. And not only does it persist, it intensifies. The more we resist it, the more it kicks back at us. The more we resist our actual situation, the more we create a hell state for ourselves, as Pema Chodron says. So resisting isn't great. The art of suffering is the art of not resisting. So this is a fantastic thing to learn about, and it's very simple. Any type of intellectual approach always makes everything complicated. But what we're talking about here is not an intellectual approach. We're not applying the mind because the mind is resistance. So how do we not resist? And this is a conundrum in itself, because if I'm resisting, then my not wanting to resist is resistance. It's resistance to my resistance. So straight away I'm going down the wrong road. So it has to be understood that we're not saying resistance is bad or we have to not resist. Even though it's kind of like we're saying that, we're not really saying that. We're saying whatever our situation is, and that situation involves the fact that I'm resisting, not to resist that, not to get clever about it and trying to alter my fundamental orientation. So my fundamental orientation is resistance, which is to say my fundamental orientation is thinking. Doing comes into it as well, but the doing comes out of thinking. It's the thinking that's the root of it. So the question is, how do I work with thinking? And the first thing to say about thinking is that we work with it not by trying to recontextualize it or put a different slant on it or anything fancy like that. We work with thinking by not automatically believing everything it says or anything it says. Thought's fine, and there's no need to do away with thought, but it isn't to say that we have to carry on automatically believing in thought, because believing in thought's a different kettle of fish entirely. Thoughts are fine when you don't believe in them. So the way to go about not believing in thought, a good way to think about it, if I can say that, is to think about someone who's a renowned liar. Now, if a renowned liar appears on the scene, the very fact that they're a renowned liar means that we don't really pay a hell of a lot of attention to what they're telling us. For the simple fact that they're a renowned liar, it doesn't matter what the hell they tell us. They could tell us about this, they could tell us about that, they could tell us about all sorts of things. But what they are specifically telling us about, the particularities of what they're telling us about, does not matter at all, because we know that they're a liar. So no matter what the particularities are, we don't lose sight of the fact that they are a renowned spinner of falsehoods. And to put this another way, we could talk in terms of someone who's a fantastic con man, a brilliant con man, really at the height of their game, a true professional. Now, if you don't know that a con man is a con man, then you're in trouble, especially if they're a brilliant con man. If you don't know that they're a con man, you've had it really, because any Joe Soap is going to forfeit so quickly, whatever it is they're saying. But if we happen to have this vital piece of information that this guy is actually by trade a superlative confidence trickster, that's all we need to know. Just need to know that and not forget about that. Then it doesn't matter what the hell they say. It doesn't matter what they say. You're never going to listen to anything that a superlative world-class con man is saying to you. You look at him, you could be polite to him, you smile at him, but No way in a million years are you going to start taking him seriously because etc, etc, etc. So the point of this is that thought is the renowned liar. That thought is the superlative confidence trickster. There never was the like of thought, and there never will be. So what we need to face up with and get straight is this, is that thought is always a liar. Okay, thanks for watching.